I'll show you the side of yourself, the person that you've always been, but never dreamed.
Well, hello, welcome to a quick roundup of the Ultimate Console Olympics. We've a couple of weeks ago finally finished, and the final video will have gone out just before we start recording this. But we figured we'd end it a bit more ceremoniously than that. The last game wasn't the greatest Olympics game. We figured that the competition of that magnitude deserves something a bit more. So we're going to give you our top 5 best and worst games that we've played in the Ultimate Console Olympics, and a brief summary of how we did. So as you can see, as we're talking now on the scoreboard, that's how it ended.
Not great for me.
It wasn't that close.
I started off I thought I started off really strong, but when you see it as we're seeing it now, it's I suck dick, man. That's horrible.
It's not great, is it? I mean, to be fair, I do remember in season 2 there was a game which you were forced to draw because we couldn't remember quite how it went.
Oh yeah.
And I think that cost you a win there. But even then, even if we gave you that one, it'd still be 6-4. So it's still pretty. I mean, you see towards the end there, like we said before, seasons 7, 8, 9, 10.
I'm not a modern game. Modern games aren't brilliant for me. Well, especially in this format anyway. It's I'm just the old school button basher.
Yeah, definitely.
Which the early games relied a lot on. So.
Yeah, they definitely did. So we're going to take a quick look back at the seasons and just kind of remind ourselves of the games. So season 1 only had 3 games. It was 2 of them were arcade games. A lot of arcade games back then. There wasn't much on home console. So season 1 started in 1984 at the Olympics in '84, and the first game was the arcade version of Track and Field. The second was the sequel to that, which was Hyper Sports, which was essentially the same game with some different events. And then the final game was Hyper Sports again, but the SG-1000 version.
Oh yeah.
Which was a very basic game. But the original Track and Field is what started it all off, and that was a pretty good start to the competition. The only problem I had with those arcade games really was that we didn't always get to play the full game, because they were essentially levels, weren't they? So if you didn't qualify and get right the amount of points, you couldn't progress to the next event.
No, that was game over for you. You had to do it again, so you had to rely on at least one of us getting past.
Yeah, and even then you could run out of credits, because there was a time, weren't there, on one of them, I think, where I think you ran out of credits and you decided if you continue, your score starts at 0. So you chose not to continue and you left a board there for me to catch.
Yeah.
And I remember I was so close to catching it, and I didn't. So it made it a bit of an interesting dynamic, but it was a bit of a pain in the ass. But these were arcade games, do you know what I mean? Back in the day, the only home console game we played was the SG-1000's version of Track and Field, was of Hypersports, and that had about 3 events in it. It really wasn't a big game, but it was, like you say, it was a very interesting start. I mean, the graphics were okay for an arcade game back in 1983, the year we were born. It was a good time to start the year I was born. You were already a granddad by then.
Fuck off.
But yeah, it had all the classic events, didn't it? Really, it had javelin, it had your sprint, it had hammer throw. Was it hammer throw? It had. Yeah, it did have hammer throw. It had long jump, high jump.
High jump. That were hard. That.
It was a pain, that one. Yeah, it really was a pain. So yeah, it had some good events. Sound was okay back then. Konami did a good job with the games. Hypersports was not as good for me. It didn't have the the same events. Do you know what I mean? They had to change up the events, and for me, the new events just weren't quite as good. They'd included some okay ones. They included swimming, skeet shooting. You loved.
Oh man, that's was that one I got perfect score on?
Yeah, I think it was definitely not this round,
but in practice, it was one of them things. I admitted defeat.
Yeah.
But when it came to it, I had it must have been good luck, and I got a perfect score, and I never saw that coming.
Yeah, no, you really did. Yeah, and it had that trampoline thing, which I wasn't a massive fan of. And then you got right to the end, and you did the vault. But yeah, by the end of the first two, you'd won season 1 after 2 games. Hyper Sports and Track and Field, you caned on both. The arcade games, you were just better in the end. I don't know how, but you were somehow. And I
thought it was going to go like that throughout. I started solidly, and I'm thinking, this Olympic game was a good idea.
Yeah, it was good fun to begin with. I was regretting it quite early on, but no, you did. You started off very, very well, and then the SG 1000. Poor end to the first season, but not a lot you can do. It was an effort. It was an effort from the Master System, the SG 1000 version. I mean, the graphics were very. The game actually played quite well. Its playability was pretty good. It just didn't have many events. It had that.
That one. It was the diving one.
The diving one.
I could not get to grips with that.
I don't know how I did. You just had to twist as many times. You didn't even have to dive in, did you? You didn't even have to dive. You just had to. You just literally had to, spin as many times as you could spin. And look, you didn't even have to dive, and you just got good points. It was a tough event, the diving. And then that was it, wasn't it? Was it just diving?
Oh, really?
Beat you after diving, and then horse box was the other one, and then I think there was a couple more events, but I'm not. We got to trampolining. I think trampolining was the final event, and that's just more spins again. It's such a basic game. You just have to keep spinning. Every event involved somersaults.
It wasn't the best.
No, it really wasn't. But I won it, so I've always got I'll always have a place in my heart because it was my first victory in the competition.
Yeah, I could have had a clean sheet, but no.
No, but I don't know if any of these. I think the only one, if any, would be the original Track and Field. If any was going to get into my top 5 out of that list, it would be the original Track and Field. I don't think any would get onto my worst 5 though.
No, out of them,
worse games than them.
Out of them games, definitely the Track and Field one. Again, it was early life, basic, but it worked. I did win it, but even if I lost it still would have made the best one out of that one.
Easily, yeah. I don't know if it'll get in my top 5, but the other two certainly won't. Hyper Sports were not great, but none of them are bad enough to be in my worst 5. There's definitely 5 worse games than them.
Definitely, some games coming up are absolutely appalling.
Yeah, they really, really are. So season 1 started well for you, 2-1.
We started that in June 2023. We started doing this.
Yeah, first published it. We played it a lot.
Oh yeah. So
we've been loads.
We've been at this for well over a couple of years doing all this.
Yeah, we got a lot before that channel had even launched, and then moving into the second season, which again, second season was slightly dodgy, as far as I remember. There was 4 games in season 2, so we had Track and Field made it to the NES.
Yeah.
88 games, which was sort of the 3rd game in the series, in the arcade series anyway, and then Summer Games on the Master System and Track and Field 2 on the NES. It wasn't. I didn't enjoy this season that much. I must admit, it was an okay port of Track and Field to the NES. It still had the same problems that the arcade game had for me. 88 games were interesting. Never saw it again. Never saw it ported anywhere.
Realistically, I can't remember that 88 games.
It's that funny comedy head one.
I've got it now.
Yeah. So it was
as soon as you said that, I've remembered. Yeah.
Yeah, it's that one. Track and Field looked fine on the NES. It was a nice conversion, bright colours, looked good. All the events mostly were there. It was fine. Archery was brought through.
That was weird. You couldn't get to grip with that one, could you?
No, and it was bloody easy as well. And
the concept to it was easy. I didn't know why you didn't get it, but you just didn't.
I didn't enjoy it. I didn't enjoy it at all. And again, at the start of the season again, you started off with a win in Track and Field. I just couldn't get to grips with that arcade game at all. Track and Field in all its arcade versions, I hated it. Well, I didn't hate it. I enjoyed it. I just couldn't win. So you started off season 2 very well. It's 88 games, I think, was the issue with this season. It had got a few problems, and I think the issue was that we ended up having a draw in this game, and I think that was where your season unravelled a little bit.
I see you started curse.
I'm not sure why we had a draw. I'm pretty sure there was a problem.
There was a viable reason behind it. I think it was to do
with the score, wasn't it? Because we didn't check the scoreboard at the end or something like that. Because I think this was one of the ones where you'd bailed out and I had to try and beat your score.
Yeah.
And I didn't do it, but then we didn't know if at the end of the event on the scoreboard it added it on and we'd gone past it or something.
There was some controversy to it. It wasn't worth going back and forth, which we were doing for a bit.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was just a draw.
The graphics had improved a lot since the original track and field in the arcade.
Oh yeah, I like this Heart Drill one.
The graphics were quite nice. Yeah, the graphics had improved a little bit. Quite a bit different. So yeah, it was an okay game. 88 games. I didn't mind it too much. I think we went to a third Olympics, but then we weren't sure how it turned out. I'm pretty sure, yeah. So we called that one a draw, and then I think the problem was that I then took over the next two and ended up winning the season. Which had you done that, we'd have drawn the season. So you still wouldn't have got a win. You'd have still, even if you'd have won that, you still didn't win the next two. So the season overall would have been a draw. So it was not like you'd have won overall anyway.
I would have took it. It all would have been better with a loss.
Well, I mean, there is that, but that was my first one. And then we moved into the Master System era properly, with summer games on the Master System. It was not much fun. Again, not one of the worst games. I still don't think any of these would be on the worst games lists. But I mean, it was just very basic graphically.
Oh, that was weird, because if you ran off screen, that were it.
Yeah, and it was like the running was dodgy. Like, not dodgy, it was jaggy. It wasn't smooth at all, was it?
It looked like you'd broken both your legs and you were trying to run.
Yeah, it was very hobbly. They loved the horse box back in the day, didn't they?
They did, yeah. They kept running that bad boy.
Diving was a big one.
I mean, diving I can cope with. I'm not.
Interesting video would be to find out what the most popular Olympic event is in games. So you'd assume it's the 100-meter sprint. I assume, but you never know. Like just by giving each event a point based on how many times it's appeared in each game.
Yeah, it's probably set sprint. I mean, even javelin, I wouldn't even say that's turned up more than it should have done.
Lost out a lot in the bottom ones, didn't it? The javelin. But yeah, this game was okay. You got to pick a couple of nations. It had a few events. It wasn't awful, but it wasn't brilliant by any stretch. It definitely wasn't one of the better games on the Master System. But as you can probably see, that was my first victory, I believe, in the competition, in the season. It took me a while to get going in each bloody season. But yeah, it was okay. It wasn't a lot of fun. But in the end, I got a victory, finally. It took me 3 games in the first 2 seasons to get a victory, and I didn't get a victory till game 3 in each season. Like, I wasn't good.
You were struggling there.
I struggled, and now the next one, Track and Field 2, that could be one of the worst games. That might be one of my worst games on the NES. It was a really, really poor game. I really, really hated it, actually. It looked quite good, but it just didn't play well at all. We couldn't do the events at all. It was straight to the NES. It wasn't an arcade game, but we just couldn't do it. Fencing was okay. And then you had like swimming, which was a weird event that we couldn't really do that well. Again, you go off screen on this one, so the other person's just
you're fucked.
Yeah, completely off.
If you're not a weak group, that's it.
Skeet wasn't. I don't know.
I think that wasn't that bad. That Skeet one. I mean, I don't like Skeet, but
we had kickboxing and judo, I think it was, and really.
Oh, kayak, man.
Yeah, the first time kayaking.
I don't care what
made an
console
appearance.
that's in, what arcade machine it's on. I cannot
And
do
the
that.
archery was weird, wasn't it? We couldn't always get it to go to the furthest one. We never.
Oh, that was it. Yeah, no
never
matter what you
hit.
did, we just could not figure it out.
No, there was just something not right about this game, and I think it was reflected in our review scores. Like, it wasn't fun at all. Or you couldn't even have a 2-player mode, could you? You had to pick. Did you have to pick single player? Because 2-player would only let you have judo or something. Because we have to write the scores down on this one, I think, as well.
Maybe.
Because I remember when we picked 2-player mode, it would only give you some basic events like that. It would only give you some really basic
Oh yeah, that
events.
what weird one, yeah.
So you can only have 3 versus events. All the other events you have to play in 1 player.
Oh, fucking stupid. I mean,
Arm wrestling.
oh yeah, arm wrestling.
Fucking arm wrestling.
But where we tried to play a game which you'd expect other people to try and play it that way is, I don't know, quite a few consoles that did that.
Oh god, yeah, there was.
They wouldn't allow just a basic 2-player game. It was always one player. If you tried playing it as 2, you had to fudge it to play like we did.
Yeah, I really hated it. I mean, you give its playability a bit higher than mine, but none of us thought it was good. Like, it was poor.
So dick.
It was very, very.
One of them games you just wanted it over and done with, and never speak of it again.
Yeah.
Which ironically we are now.
I know. I'm gonna. We're making a few notes as we're talking, just to try and get our things out. But I do think that this could be on my list for worst. One of my worst. Track and field 2. Not made any of my favourites yet, but that could be one of the worst. It's definitely a tough one. But going then, season 3, I cracked on from where season 2 left off. Season 3 was probably one of the best years for Olympics video games. It was 1992. It was Barcelona, and there was a lot of games that we loved. The first one was the Master System version of Olympic Gold. That one was just absolutely brilliant. Like, Olympic Gold is just one of my favourite Olympics games anyway. But the Master System version, not as good as the Mega Drive, but still really, really decent. Really decent game. There was a few. I think we had another four games on this season. This season we had another 4 titles. 2 versions of Olympic Gold. The Mega Drive came in. The 16-bit consoles came in, and that's where for me things really kicked on. It was the last Master System game. The NES had already bowed out. Oh no, in fact the NES did come back. There was meant to be a NES one in this, but we played it and we put it in another season because we found it late. But Olympic Gold, World Sports Competition on the PC Engine. The only PC Engine game as well. Not a great game for me, but the 2 Mega Drive ones I was very, very happy with. And this is where I started to kick in. 16-bit games are where I kick on. So Olympic Gold, really, really good graphics for a Master. Compared to the other Master System game that we just played, the Summer Games.
Big leap, yeah.
Really big leap in a few years. This one looks so much better. Only it didn't play as good as the Mega Drive, but it was good enough. Sound effects not quite as good, but and it's probably not going to get in my top 5. Not the Master System one anyway, but it's still a fun game to play. You actually won the Master System version. I mean, it's an 8-bit game, so you still finally ended on your 8-bit stuff, and you cracked on. Started the next season with a win again. You start every season with a win so far. Like you really started well.
Yeah, and then too much pressure gets to me. I just lose it, man.
You really started very, very well. And then the next game was the PC Engine game. And some people argue the PC Engine's a 16-bit console. Some people argue it's an 8-bit console. This game wasn't brilliant. I did like the fact it had like a news broadcast to it, didn't it? It was telling you each day.
It did. What were happening with the?
There was a lot of events as well. The animation was quite nice. It was smooth. You could tell the graphics were changing a bit now.
Yeah, you got like little interactions in backgrounds with crowds. What were happening for each day? Your schedule, that were a good thing. I like that.
I really like that because, like we've said, there's a lot of games that you don't even get to play a full Olympics on 2-player. You just play random events, and this one put you into a proper game. And I really, really love that proper game. It was a really, really good game. That presentation-wise, anyway, at the time, it was something we'd not seen before.
Yeah, that was a good touch to it.
Yeah, it was. Playability was okay. I mean, it had a lot of events to pick from, though, didn't it? It had throwing events, had a lot of swimming events. It was one of the first games to give you multiple different events in the same discipline. But the graphics were really nice. It got,
stupid skeet shooting.
Always got a skeet shooting one. Your basic track and field events, high jump, sprints. I think it got a marathon, didn't it, as well? That's why you got
that quick fire,
trap shooting, long jump. Obviously a rowing type event, which we all love. Couple more swimming events. I think it got about 10 events. I think it was nearly a decathlon type thing. But it was different. It was the biggest game we played by far at that point. Much bigger than anything else. But there was something a little bit missing in the playability. It wasn't quite as good as some of the others, but you started off again. It was an 8. I still argue it's an 8-bit console, so therefore that's why you won that one. But you
domination. That's how I started off. But
another great season.
How the fuck did I lose this one?
I think we brought the other game in.
Right.
I think the season would have been a draw, but I think we found another game from Capcom that we brought in at the last minute.
Oh, so I got duped like last season.
I think you'll claim that you got duped.
I get duped. If you watch these videos through and through, folks, I got duped a lot.
I think you'll argue.
I should have won 2 more seasons.
You might argue that there's a dupe.
I'll fucking argue it.
There you go. There was a special episode.
Because we were
season 3, which made it episode 5. So we'd already started the next season, and we found a game that we should have included and didn't. There's nothing I can do about that. Do you know what I mean?
You could have forgot about it, mate.
So you could argue that we'd have drawn 2 seasons, but even drawing 2 seasons,
it still would have made my stats look a bit better at end, mate.
Even with these 2 draws, even with them 2 as draws, I still won 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You still only won 3, so it's still not the same. Yeah, I mean, we didn't. You clearly didn't enjoy World Sports Competition at all, did you? You really hated it. The one we just looked at, the PC Engine one, despite the fact that you won it. Yeah. You did only give it a 4 for enjoyability.
Well,
so you obviously did
something about it.
The trouble is, it was long, I think, to play through, wasn't it? It was quite long to play through, even though it looked nice. The events were quite boring, and it was quite long, But yeah, it was. I don't think it'd be on any of my worst lists. It's definitely not on my best lists, though. 100% not. But then you get to the the Mega Drive stuff, which is where it really kicks in for me.
Yeah, I think it's where these games begin to shine a bit now.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, Summer Challenge isn't the best looking game from Accolade, but. And we're playing the PAL version as well, so even bigger borders. But I loved it. I thought his playability was quite good, but it was a weird one, wasn't it? Because the hurdles and the equestrian, you're actually just on your own. On the hurdles, you're just running around a track by yourself.
Yeah.
It was a strange. I loved its playability, though. I really enjoyed its playability. But yeah, like the equestrian, it's a really basic course. It's bloody hard as well. I don't think any of us got around it.
I think you got half a lap round? No.
And this was a strange game in that on equestrian and on hurdles, if you tripped and fell, you were disqualified. Like most games, you just get a doctor point and you carry on.
No room for error, and we could not do this.
Yeah, no. Eventually, you get thrown off. I mean, we both look like we were doing okay at this point. Whoever's running at this point is doing fine. Actually,
should fall off now.
They're not doing bad, are they? Whoever it is, I mean.
This has got to be me.
Yeah, this is of course. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, that's definitely me.
Miss a jump, but you carry on. No, you don't. If you miss a jump, that's
it. So you're fucked.
And it's a strange one. It's such a strange one. So in game 1, you pick your characters, you get involved.
They've gone for a more realistic look with graphics, didn't they? Obviously,
They tried. Yeah, they had a
early
kayak.
was a console.
Obviously, everyone loves a kayak, and you got battered in kayak.
Oh, this was horrendous, man. I can remember this.
Yeah, cycling, you're on your own. That's just a standard, go around a track. Not even any crowd. If you look at it, it's just you're cycling. It's like practically like a practice session. It's like the whole thing's a practice session.
This was a weird button basher, and we had to try and button bash, but steer at the same time.
An attempt to steer, yeah. Equestrian there. Pole vault was quite a good event. I quite liked it. It's a weird one, like I said, because it doesn't look good. It doesn't look great for a Mega Drive, but I thought it played really smooth, and the events were quite fun to get round.
Apart from kayak.
I didn't mind kayak. I don't mind kayaking events. Archery was a good event. I really liked archery. It was easy though, very easy. But I enjoyed archery, but it didn't have a 100-meter sprint.
Weird.
This game. It had high jump stuff, then it had hurdles. And hurdles, I think eventually one of us or both of us might have got around. I remember getting there.
Oh,
eventually.
this was shit, wasn't it?
But yeah.
Because it did like the 3D effect, and it didn't come off good.
No, but if you trip and fall on a hurdle, you're done.
Brutal game, yeah.
You just get disqualified. It's the weirdest thing, but I think I might have made it.
I think you did.
And I don't think you did. And I think
I always made it to the last leg of it, but always tripped. You were on it.
Oh, I tripped a few times, but I got over the line, and that's all you really had to do to win that event, is get over the line. Because at the tournament record, I smashed it. Absolutely smashed it.
It was one of them weird things where, again, there were no margin for error, so that were extremely hard.
It was a really, really
trip over one hurdle, you don't. I'll pick your set up, wipe your set off, get started again. That's it. You're done.
It was a very, very tough event. But I mean, you got over a few hurdles, I remember. So
somebody's got a few
there you go. There you go. Flat on your face. So yeah, I enjoyed the game, but I won. So
yeah, that's why you enjoyed it, dickhead.
So I would have enjoyed it. Yeah, again, Summer Challenge isn't going to get. They never made a sequel. Probably
a reason why.
They made a pseudo sequel. They made Winter Challenge for the Winter Olympics, but they never made an actual sequel accolade. But I didn't mind it. I thought it was okay. It's definitely not in my top. It's definitely not in my top 5. But I think we both fairly enjoyed it.
Yeah, but this next game, I'm guaranteed this is going to make it in my top 5.
Yeah, it
for
has
many
to.
reasons.
Yeah, it definitely has to.
I had this on the Mega Drive when I first, well, not when I first got it, but it was one of them games we played for ages. So it could always hold a special place, and I think that's probably why it can make it to the top 5. Plus, yet again, it was a good game.
It's a brilliant game. Yeah, you had the Japanese version, I remember.
I did, yeah.
The English one in the end. I thought the English box was better because it was black. The
Japanese
version was white. But otherwise, we.
I can remember at the time, obviously, I used to write my records down to whatever I jumped or whatever I
did. We had a notebook, didn't we?
We had a notebook. Recording all this before, obviously, mobile phones weren't around at this point. So we had little books recording all your high scores and accomplishments.
You couldn't save them, could you?
No.
Saved them only saved it while the game was switched on. Once you turn that game off, once you turn the Mega Drive off, then that was it. So we had to save them. But yeah, I think it would be up on my list somewhere as well. Like, I don't think it can't not be. Do you know what I mean? It probably is partly nostalgia. I don't know if people watching this video will think it looks good or would even want to play it. It's quite basic 2D graphics. It's nothing overly special. It's smooth running. The animation's smooth.
Yeah.
The graphics are not awful, but they're not spectacular.
But your button, like your reaction time on your button pressing, that will point on. You've got your opening sequence to the Olympics. It makes it feel like a proper event.
It looks official, doesn't it?
The proper competition where you're playing between two mates.
And you do a proper Olympics, yeah. You do a proper Olympics. The scoreboard looks great. The music was decent enough. It's, again, not the world's best music on the Mega Drive, but I like it. Maybe it's just every time I hear it, I just know what it means. So yeah, big fan. The graphics, like I said, were decent enough. The animation's good. Not got loads of events. It's only got about 5 or 6, 7 events. Maybe.
No, but we'd play it time and time again. Olympic.
Yeah, I could play this on hard difficulty and still get gold medals. Like I tried, and if you played it on single player, that I quite liked in single player, you actually did have to qualify past rounds as well. You didn't do that on 2 player, but it was still such a great game. And there was a stamina thing on the swimming, which was unknown because you didn't know what your stamina was. You couldn't see a stamina bar on swimming, but it was there.
Oh, we used to suck dick at this. You know, when we first had this game, we could not figure this swimming out.
No.
I can remember at one point it just clicked, and then...
Yeah, because we just button bashed like crazy because you wouldn't know it to do anything different.
No, because there was no indication, but obviously you had that stamina, and we're like, we can never do swimming, what we're doing wrong. And then when we came back to it at one point, it just clicked. And...
Yeah. I think in practice it shows you a bar. I think in practice there's like a little stamina bar.
Yeah.
But we never went to practice. We
just went straight to practice between ourselves, didn't we? Obviously,
yeah.
we spent hours going off at the same Olympics over and over again. But...
Yeah, no, it was. It's a brilliant game. In the end, so initially we did call it a draw for season 3 because in the end I did win Olympic gold, and obviously we gave it very high reviews.
Damn right we did.
It is one of the more enjoyable Olympic games on that list, 100% it is. But there was another game that year.
It's ironic you keep finding these fucking games, mate, isn't it?
So this was it. Like I said, we'd already started the next season, but it was Gold Medal Challenge on the NES from Capcom. Their only Olympics game they ever released. And I don't think it was particularly well received. I don't think we actually really enjoyed it. It was a NES game, so you'd assume that you would actually win the NES game. It very much looked like track and field. It had a track and field look to it. The graphics were slightly big-headed graphics, but looked quite good. And like I said, because it's a NES game, I'd assume that you would have won it.
Yeah. But something went off.
The one time that you didn't win
I must have been sick that day. Who knows?
I don't quite know what happened. It was a 2-0 as well. So yeah, you didn't win it. You didn't come close, but I'm not sure why.
I was drunk, mate.
But yeah, so it was very much looked like track and field, just with Capcom's version of it. Really, graphics were not spectacular. Some okay events, quite a lot of events, swimming, mixed freestyle swimming, but in the end, and there was that long one, there was a constant marathon or something going through, wasn't there? So you picked bits.
Change how fast you ran or whatever.
And that was taking part way through, wasn't it? So there was a lot of events in this game, and then you change that every now and again. You just do a bit of that event and then come back to the others. It was a very interesting way of doing it, actually. But
it's an automatic game, wasn't it?
Yeah, Gold Medal Challenge. It was a tough game because there was a lot of events compared to the others. But it was done as part of a TV show. So it had a nice presentation, but it wasn't either of our favourites. But you lost 2-0.
Of course I did, mate. Of course I did.
And so unfortunately you lost the season in the end. We changed it from a draw to me winning it, which is as it should have been.
I got screwed again.
Like I said, maybe you'd have got 2 draws at this point. Maybe
I was
being generous, but it doesn't matter in the end, does it? I mean, we can give you the 2 draws if you want them.
No, but fuck it,
But yeah, it wasn't the greatest game. I think we both thought it was average. Again, it's one of those games. Not really going to get on anyone's.
It's one of them games like you found, and I really wish you hadn't found it.
Well, you would say that because you ended up losing.
Yeah.
But by the time we had found it, we had already started season 4. Season 4 stayed on the Mega Drive era. We were just moving into the early PlayStation era.
I'll tell you now, the early PlayStation era is not a good era.
No.
Graphically, like it doesn't age well.
Season 4 is a mixed bag. There's there's quite a lot of games in season 4. It was our biggest season at that point. It was 7 games in season 4 compared to the 3 or 4 games we'd had each season. This was nearly double what we were used to. And it started off with Olympic Summer Games, and this is one of the games that had 4 versions to play. The Mega Drive, the SNES, the 3DO, and the PlayStation. And none of them were that good.
No,
this is the sequel to Olympic Gold. This is Tiertex who made it. They made Olympic Gold. So, it wasn't great this time. There was a lot of the same. And then Track and Field came in. Decathlete came in on the Saturn, the only Saturn game we play in this competition. And then Summer Olympics on the CD32, which again isn't a 32-bit machine by any stretch. And that was a sketchy one, wasn't it, at the end as well, CD32 one. We struggled because we had to play it via emulation. I didn't have my CD32 at that point, so we had to play that via a PC emulator, and we had to take it in turns with defense.
Oh, yeah.
Because it was doing something strange.
We fudged a lot of these games.
In the early days.
No fault to his own, or sometimes it might have been fault to ours, but...
In the
I
early
can't remember
days.
which one kept turning itself off or going blank.
Oh, yeah, that was one later on. That was one of the Track and Fields, yeah. But the Mega Drive version of this had some of the most horrific music that you've ever heard, and I remember giving it really bad review based on just its music. It was foul.
It kind of pissed you off through an entire game, didn't it?
Oh, it was loud. It didn't feel right. There was no crowd noises either. Like, the graphics was okay.
Yeah.
I remember seeing this in a Nintendo magazine years ago when I got it, because it was one of the it was a Nintendo Power, and the N64 was just coming out. Or it was getting some N64 footage was being reviewed, and then this game got reviewed in that same magazine. And I remember thinking, oh, it looks brilliant! Like, and we rented this at one point, and it was okay to rent, but
just proves that games looks not everything. Right?
This one, nostalgia doesn't have it in the same way for me. The events were just. It was fluid. It ran okay, but it just didn't play right for me. We couldn't figure out certain events.
Oh yeah, because problem we found is like obviously with the early Olympics, we could reference if there's no tutorials, there's been someone that played it. We could find out like that. But there were some games that there were no reference to, or you know what I mean. There were no. This is how you do it.
And even the manuals weren't that good back then. Like, they didn't explain a whole lot.
So we were stuck on a few games like that because we had to try and figure out how to do stuff. And
yeah, I didn't enjoy it. I mean, I started off with a win. I won the Mega Drive game.
No, that's first season, man.
Yeah, it's the first season I actually got a win at the beginning. It took me normally 3 games to get a win in every season, but this season I started off with a victory. So that was good. It was our last Mega Drive game. It was a poor end for the Mega Drive. Out of the 3 Mega Drive games, it was by far the worst Mega Drive game. I'm not sure it is going to be provisionally in my worst 5 because I don't know. I'm assuming there's probably worse games, but I'm not 100% sure. So it's provisionally on my worst 5 at this point. I'm going to make a note of this one because I really, really did not like it. The Mega Drive version. It was really poor, really bad. Didn't enjoy it at all. And then it carried on. This was one of those seasons, like I said, where
not enjoyable.
No, because it's the same game being played a lot. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Obviously, there's some good games in this season, but when you don't enjoy your game and you've got to play it 4 fucking times,
the SNES one was better. The SNES one had better music, and that's what made it better. The graphics was slightly different on the SNES.
Did we end up turning the music off on it?
On the Mega Drive, yeah. In the end, the graphics was slightly different on the SNES, at least on the menus.
Yeah.
And but the game itself was pretty much the same. This one probably wouldn't go in my worst 5 just because the Mega Drive one ended up in the worst 5. You actually won this one, so it was we were 1-1 after the console. This was the only SNES game in the Ultimate Console Olympics. We never had any more SNES games. Wasn't the greatest SNES game. This was one of the weird seasons because it was that bridging season, and it was like
between generations.
the only SNES game, the only Saturn game, the only 3DO game, and the only CD32 game. Like it was like a mongrel season of just like the worst games. There was a couple of gems in there at the end, but the beginning started off really poor. That one wasn't good. Then the PlayStation and 3DO versions were just not very good either. The PlayStation version it played okay, but God, it looked bad. It looked so bad.
Yeah.
Early PlayStation. It wasn't even that early. It was 1996. The PlayStation had been out like 2 years at this point, I'm pretty sure.
But this is what I said. So like early PlayStation does not come off very good. You think you've got an image in your memory. It's not what actually is.
Ridge Racer was a launch game and looked better than this.
Yeah, look at that.
Do you know what I mean?
That's horrible, man.
Ridge Racer was a launch game, and Actua Soccer came out around this time, and you had that was a great game. Tekken had already been released at this point. The original Tekken. I mean, alright, that was the best game. It was better than this. It just didn't look good at all. The character sprites didn't look great. I mean,
Kev.
it was colourful, but the character sprites didn't look amazing. The crowd was just not there. They were just completely flat.
Yeah.
It had a lot of events. I remember it had a lot of events, this one. It did have loads to choose from. But it just wasn't fun. It was a full Olympics. You could do an Olympics properly and play the events properly. But it just wasn't the most fun. I don't know. It only took 2 games to win this one.
Straight out win.
Straight out win for someone. Straight out win for you. So
yeah.
you won the PlayStation. So you took the lead in this one. I mean, you win all the crap games. That's the thing.
That's what I do.
And then we moved on to the 3DO version, which the only difference was the 3DO version was in a higher resolution at that point.
It helps a bit, but
it did look a bit better, didn't it? I mean, the 3DO version, it looks more. The trouble is, it's less sharp because it's in 480i rather than 240. It's less sharp. It's brighter. The characters, the models are a bit more solid looking, but it looks more like blurry, and the faces. There's just no faces on these characters. You know what I mean? Like,
how can he run without face?
There's just nothing. I mean, the animation's really poor. Like,
I remember this, yeah.
Very, very poor animation.
It's like we just got rushed halfway through it, like through a project, and it's like shit. We need to release this.
It looks like it because I can't believe that something, you know, the console had been out a little while. 3DO came out before the PlayStation. The 3DO had been out even longer at this point than the PlayStation. So to have to play it like this is just a bit like not amazing.
Not fun, man.
Not really, no. I mean, like I said, again, a lot of events. Discus was in, javelin was in.
I seem to remember,
high jump was in.
Early console days, we sucked arts at like some events, and discus were always one of them.
Yeah,
or somewhere we realistically could not figure it out.
I wasn't a massive fan of discus. Javelin was obviously in. Weightlifting was in. There was quite a lot to choose from. Obviously, I'm sure there's a skeet somewhere. Skeet was in, archery was there.
Oh, that skeet was bad.
Fencing was a good one. I remember quite liking fencing in it.
Yeah, because you probably won.
Well, maybe, but I remember liking fencing. I think this went to a 3rd Olympics, this one. So this one was quite a close one. It went to a game 3. But in the end, you won. Yeah,
domination.
You did win, so you did win. So yeah, you were caning this season to start with. You were kicking
PlayStation.
Out. Yeah, you did well on the PlayStation, and then we moved on to the Saturn version, which was Athlete Kings. This could be in my top 5. This is definitely going to be mine. Definitely climb. Because
I think we might have a similar top 5, mate, because I fucking love this game.
Yeah, I think maybe. Because this one's definitely going to be up there. It's such a fun game. Random arcade conversion actually came from the SVT Titan arcade board, which is essentially a souped up Sega Saturn anyway. It runs in the Saturn's high res mode.
But look at the difference in graphics on this, the detail on it, and it was just a solid game.
Yeah, it was, and it came out the same year as the track and field one.
How can you have such a big fucking difference?
I know. There was a lot less events as well, which made it more fun almost because it was over quicker.
you could have, the events it did have was always fun, and each one was slightly different. Like you had the shot put where it was just a power gauge going up and down, and then you had the 1500 with the stamina bar. So each event was different enough that but just it was in high res mode. That's in 480i, the same as the 3DO game. Do you know what I mean? And that's how 480i should look. It just looked brilliant. I'm pretty sure that I dominated Athlete Kings.
Probably did.
Because it was a game I loved. I had this from when I had my Sega Saturn, and I absolutely loved
Also,
it.
written cheating, having all that practice.
I'd had it a long time, yeah. I had this PAL version for a very, very long time, and I played it a lot. Really, really loved it. And I think we gave it, pretty high reviews as well, even at the time. I think it deserved them. Even though it's not as long, its longevity is actually longer because it's a shorter game, ironically, because there's a lot more replayability with it. But yeah, we both thoroughly enjoyed Athlete Kings.
79.
Yeah, you didn't give it as highly as I did, but I think the sound quality, maybe you didn't like the sound. Well, the sound's not its best, but it's...
Oh yeah, I only give that a 14. So.
It's a great game though. It is a great game. And then the season drew to a close with the last two games. So we had Summer Olympics on the CD32. Now this could be one of the worst, just because of, I don't know if it will be though, but it wasn't that much fun.
I can't remember this one.
We had to use an emulator because I didn't have a CD32 at the time, and it was a game where you had to choose. You had to get through the game. We only had one controller, and you had to get through as much as you could, and it would give you random events, because each time you passed an event, the next event wasn't the same as next time around. Do you know what I mean? It was, so we went through it on our own and just took it in turns to play events and wrote down the scores. Not the worst graphically. It was a weird game. It definitely wasn't 32-bit. Definitely not. Some of these events were better than others.
Oh yeah,
the scheme was quite fun because you got quite a lot of points, bonus points if you could nail it.
You would have.
Yeah, I did pretty well in that one, I think. And then there was some basic sprinting events as well. The graphics weren't great. I mean, like I said, the CD32 was essentially a souped-up Amiga, and no one really released games on it to show its capabilities. It was very much a 16-bit machine in terms. It probably could do better. It just never lasted long enough, and we had to take it in turns to go through it.
Yeah, that's not how I like to do it.
Pass the pad when an event came up that one of us hadn't done, and we took it in turns to just do a random event and be like, okay, I'll do 3 runs and we'll write my score down, and you'll do 3 runs. And it don't look the worst though, graphically.
No, I mean, looking at it now, it looks alright.
And there's some okay events in it. But yeah, it's one long game.
Oh, I remember that you had to press when it all playing back, didn't it?
Yeah, it was interesting game. I think boxing was one of the ones that was quite fun in this.
For you, I think I got absolutely annihilated.
That's per usual. So yeah, I think I brought it back on that one, and
drawing on that one. So we finished that season on so
that one was a real
decider,
yeah. And it was a big game to end on as well, because the final game of the season was track and field.
I fucking love track and field.
It was one of your favourite games.
It is, yeah. This is definitely making my top 5. I love track and field.
I'm not a massive fan of the first one. I was until the second one came out. I thought 2000 was much better for me, but this one was. Yeah, it was well loved. We played this a lot, didn't we? I remember we both rented this out at one point.
Yeah, I don't think we could afford to buy it at that point. Definitely rented it.
It's a perfect rental game, isn't it? Because it's one of those you rent. Because we used to be able to get games for 2 and 3 nights, and so if you had this for 2 or 3 nights as a rental, you could play it to death for 2 or 3 nights and really enjoy it.
It's like, Roy, I'm in this game. At least we know what we were doing for the next 3 days.
Yeah, exactly. And it's one of those games that just doesn't, it's not like it's a 25-hour game. You've got time to complete it. It's just a load of Olympic events. The graphics were much, much better than anything around at the time. Probably even beating Athlete Kings, I think.
I just love look at it. It's always been one of my favourite ones.
It does have a classic look. I might put it on my list. I don't think it's going to make it, but I don't know. We might struggle. So I'm going to make it on the list to start with. But yeah, it was a great game to end the season on. But it was one of those that you obviously won. You were always better than me in track and field. So you took that season just. It was a very, very close season, that one, but you did take season 4, and by the end of season 4 we were joint. It was 2-2.
Close competition,
yeah. And even if we draw, I mean, you would argue at that point, if we'd drawn season 2 and 3, you'd have been 2-0 up by this point, rather than it being 2-2. But whatever. So season 5 moved things on to the 2000s, and the 2000s brought with it their own issues with games. Again, another big season. The season's got big from now on, really.
Oh, there were some long ass games.
Yeah, another 7-game season in this one, and again, I think the issue is that there's less. There wasn't 4 games on one console this time, thankfully. Well, there technically was, but they were all quite different this time. So you had Sydney 2000 was on both PlayStation and Dreamcast kicking in.
Yeah.
That was the same essentially, apart from graphics were much different. But then you had 4 versions of track and field, but they were all very different versions. They all played quite different. They all had very different quirks, and the joypads, the N64 versus Dreamcast versus the 2 PlayStation pads, are such different ways of playing those games. That they did all have their own quirks, but they were different enough. They weren't as bad as the Olympic Summer Games ones the season before. Definitely not.
No.
I don't think any of these will get on my worst list. I think Track and Field 2000 would definitely be on my best list, though. But we started off with Sydney 2000 on the PlayStation. I'm a fan of this, but not enough to put it in my top 5.
Right.
But I am a fan. I've always had a soft spot for this. I played this game a lot. When I first got it. I did own this game.
I think it looks like a good game, doesn't it?
It did. It was just it did look a good game. The biggest problem with it was that its graphics were okay. For some reason, the video quality wasn't good at the time, but the graphics were okay for Sydney 2000. The commentary was quite good, and it had a good amount of events, but it just didn't have the polish of track and field. Even the track and field that had gone previous, do you know what I mean? It was just missing something, but it was very playable. It was really, really playable. Yeah, it had a lot of it had all the major events that you would expect it to have. It had a nice official Sydney theme, similar to Olympic Gold. It felt very much like you were part of an Olympics on this one, and they did do a good job with that. But yeah, the graphics could have been better compared to what Track and Field, the original one, had shown you, and especially Track and Field 2000, which just looks so much better than this. So had to dock it some points for that. Its playability is good, but not as good as the others. But I did expect to do quite well at this, to be honest. It was a very, very close Olympics. I think it was a 2-0, but both games were quite close. But it wasn't. I think I did take it in the end.
I see. So
yeah, I think I did. I think it's obvious that I did. Yeah, I mean, I thought I would, so I took it in the end. But I don't think either of us gave it the highest reviews. But it's definitely not a horrible game. It was just.
It's not worth having a go at, isn't it?
It is. It's a nice one, but I would always recommend the Dreamcast version. Obviously, the Dreamcast just is more solid. It's in VGA. It just looks better.
76 off me.
Yeah, you did enjoy it. You did quite enjoy it. Yeah, it was a solid game. But then we moved on to probably one of the biggest hitters in the competition for me, which is Track and Field 2000 for the PlayStation. The graphics are it's the best in the Track and Field series. It's got the right events, which they changed for the Dreamcast and the N64 versions.
Yeah.
It's got the right looking menus, which they changed for those versions. It's got solid, sharp graphics. It's got a nice flow to it as you're going through the events. It gets sunset and then dark, and then it's still got that horrible qualifying thing, which I hate, because if you could get a 0, then you're pretty much out of the Olympics, which fucked you over because you couldn't do the rowing on this game. But it's just the graphics are just so nice on this game.
Yeah, I've got to agree with that.
They look really, really good. The music was good. For me, this one will definitely be in the top 5, 100%.
Oh, I'm a pro. Nobody likes this.
It definitely will get there. Yeah, it is a great game. I can't give it a high enough praise, to be honest. Even though I think I actually won it because of the rowing.
Fucking what do, won't you?
No, actually, you beat me. You did beat me. Yeah,
wow.
You did actually beat me. And there was a cycling one, weren't there, as well, where you could get 0.
Oh,
because you had to race the computer, and I think that was always its problem. That's why it's not going to be the best game, because it's got a couple of issues. But just the look and the way it feels and plays is just very, very good. But then that was it for the PlayStation, and then we moved on to the N64. It only had one game, which was Track and Field 2000 on the N64. It did allow you to play it in low res and high res, and we did have a couple of games in both. It changed its menus. The N64 controller was a strange, wasn't it? Because you had to use the analog to move stuff. They changed it from a straight button basher.
Yeah, and it's not the best place to have an analog.
It's a tiny one.
Yeah, it is not the best path to do that sort of thing.
No, it's a nub rather than an actual analog.
And it's in the middle of the pad. It's it were horrible.
Yeah, graphically, it's lost some sharpness it would do on the N64.
Yeah, of course, you'd expect that.
They changed the events in it. They added some different ones. They added trap shooting, which I didn't like. Really, they added like an event schedule, which was okay, but they gave you random events. You didn't play all the events, and you just picked. It gave you random ones, and I think I ended up with events that I absolutely hated in this.
This made no sense. Not pad-wise, button control-wise.
Yeah, it was tough. I mean, it definitely went to a third Olympics. It probably looked better in low res mode, which a lot of N64 games did look better in low res mode. It is missing something from the PlayStation though for me. This one, it's not in the worst category, but it's
pretty low down. No, actually, we'll put some falling here.
I was going to say you
it is low, but
you can put it in your bottom 5 if you want. I think it'll climb out just about with some of the stuff that's coming, but it's not brilliant. I mean, you won the N64 one as well. It's not to be proud of though, if you ask me. But you won the only N64 game.
Yeah, I did.
It's not.
I'll put it in for now.
Not one of my favourites, that one. It didn't do that well. It did okay.
I've got a feeling it's going to be pushed after the
It might just climb out to safety, I think.
Still get 70 though.
Yeah, you did quite enjoy it. And then we moved on to the Dreamcast version. It was better. It was the same, essentially, but it was in VGA, so it was much clearer, much brighter.
Oh yeah.
graphics were so much better now. The joypad was a bit better to play with.
Quite a big difference, that, isn't it?
Yeah, the Dreamcast looks. That was the power of the Dreamcast at the time, because it was VGA. It was running through a monitor. It could essentially run through a PC monitor. It could just hold a real stable resolution. Really crisp and clear, smooth as well. Really nice and smooth. It just looks, no jaggedy edges, but really nice, sharp graphics. They look really good. And it had all the main events. It was still lacking for me. It was still not as fun as the PlayStation game, just because the events weren't there. That the actual feel and look wasn't there as the PlayStation. They changed it a lot, and they kept with this theme going into the PlayStation 2 version as well. And again, it went to a third Olympics, so it went quite far. It had a good amount of events, but I wasn't his biggest fan. I mean, I won it. I'm a Sega person. I love the Dreamcast. So, but I'd never played it before playing that game. And again, better than the N64 version, but still not as good as the PlayStation game. But probably better than Sydney 2000 on the PlayStation as well. It's probably still, at that point, my second favourite game of the season. But
it's a bad season,
it's not brilliant. Yeah, it's not brilliant. And then we moved on to the final track and field game, and they never made any more track and field games after this. This was the final track and field game that we play.
Yeah.
Which is the PlayStation 2 version. This one reset a couple of times. At the end, I think in the end we gave you one of the events because it was right at the very end, wasn't it? And the game just crashed. It was during the rhythmic dancing.
I was about to say dancing one, yeah.
The graphics are decent. Like, they changed the menus again, and they changed the overall layout. The graphics look okay for the PlayStation. You know, they don't look the worst. They added some slightly different events on this one, slightly different to the Dreamcast in terms of, and the N64 in terms of events. It's got its own feel to it, this game. The graphics and the crowds are certainly a bit better. So it's okay. It's probably the second best track and field game this season. I probably like it better than the other two, but still doesn't hold a candle to the PlayStation 1 version.
Oh, miles over, man.
But yeah, it gave you the days. It tried to keep the days going like last time, but it's just lacking something. That one, to be honest, It's a bit of a meh. But you took it. Again.
Yeah, I did.
So, track and field king, you were, to be honest.
And they got rid of him, and that's where my career went down.
It was a button basher. It was very much a button basher.
It's my bread and butter, man. I like button bashing.
They added a bit of analog control, but not loads at that point.
When they start making the games technical, that's where I lose it.
Yeah, you did all right. I mean, you quite liked it, review score-wise, but again, it's not horrible. It's not special. And then we ended on the Dreamcast. 2 Dreamcast games. One of them, spiritual successor to Athlete Kings, which was Virtua Athlete 2K.
This one's a very forgettable game. There's only 7 events in this, which for this point, that's not a lot for this time for this genre, this generation. But it is a Dreamcast game. The graphics do look nice. You can tell it's got the Athlete Kings vibe to it,
yeah,
but with realistic people rather than the characters that they had before. It was a strange one because the computer characters seemed to carry on. So if you changed character at the second game, they'd carry on being really good, the ones that you left behind. And so you could almost build up the game a little bit. It was a strange approach that they seemed to take. Or that seemed to be what happened for us. It was an okay mix of events. It didn't have the feel of Athlete Kings. Athlete Kings had that quirkiness to it, which
I think that was a lot to do with characters.
Yeah, this lacks something. It looks quite bland compared to its competition that year. Sydney 2000 didn't look as good, but had a massive amount of Olympics and had the official license. And then the track and field games just offered something more. This was a bit, and it was short. It was good. Usually short's good, but this short is very short.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, it was a very, very short Olympics. I mean, the whole Olympics was done in less than an hour. We did 2 games on it as well. It was a competition that was it was a 2-0 victory for me, obviously, because it's Dreamcast. So it was a 2-0 victory. But again, we're climbing into it. The next game was a final. It was a final showdown. So it was two very close seasons, these two. And then we ended on the Dreamcast version of Sydney 2000, which again, like the others, just looks better. Obviously, being a Dreamcast game, it's got that vibrancy to it. It's full 480p running in VGA. It's got that vibrancy to it. The graphics have been upgraded just a little bit. Not as nice as Track and Field still.
Yeah.
Still don't look as good, but it's got some vibrancy to it. It looks nice. It was pretty good. Got a lot of events. Got the kayak, obviously, which you love. It was bland. It was a 2-0 victory again, though.
It fucking would be, wouldn't it?
In that one, so it was it was a good one. It was another season for me, obviously.
You got screwed, man.
Not sure how you got screwed on that season. You could argue by the end of season 5 that it was only 2-1 to you, but it was actually 3-2 to me, really, because
I got screwed up, man. I got screwed up.
But yeah, it was from then on that things started to turn. I think from 2000 that the game's quality started to turn. When we got to 2004, I think that's when it started to go a bit tits up.
Yeah, so I think what happened is after the 2000s, that's when the events started to go downhill. The games became bigger, the control systems became different. They got rid of the button bashing, changed it to analog, tried to add things that didn't make it fun anymore.
Yeah, a few quirky changes that just did not turn out good at all.
No, I agree. But you get to see those next time. So this is the end of part 1. Thank you for listening so far. And what we're going to do at the end of part 1 is we're going to give you our best and worst games. We're going to give you our top 5 best and our top 5 worst games so far. And then we'll see if they last into the next round by the end of the competition, see what our official ones are.
Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to read off our list. We're going to go from 5th worst to worst. And just tell you what we've got so far, and we'll see if that changes with the modern games. So my 5th worst was Summer Games on the Master System. It's not awful, but it's just one of the 5 worst games on that list so far. But it's not an awful game. It's just quite jaggedy. Graphics are a bit slow. Lacks a bit of atmosphere. Nothing special.
A bit like me.
Yeah.
So my 5th worst one was Track and Field 2000 for N64. Yet again, we've got different versions of this game. However, it was just the controls that tipped it over edge for me. I just did not enjoy trying to use analog stick. As we all know, what N64 is, it's not a good thing for me.
No, because it was a semi-button bashing game, wasn't it? So you had to button bash, but then they changed it to like L or Z or something was one of the buttons you had to use to jump.
You can't do that with N64 pad. No. It's just unreasonable to do that, and obviously that's probably why it got 5th worst.
Yeah, I understand that. Number 4 for me was Olympic Summer Games on the PlayStation. You could also include the 3DO in that one as well. It just looks awful. Like, it's got plenty of events, it's jaggedy again, the controls are jerky, and its looks for a 3D game are just shocking. So yeah, I just hated playing it. I didn't enjoy looking at it. It's just horrible.
Offensive to your eyeballs.
It really was.
My 4th one's going to be Summer Games for Master System.
SNES.
Yeah, it's SNES. Why was it fucking...
We didn't play it on the Master System. It's not available. Oh no, Summer Games, Olympic Summer Games or Summer Games.
Summer Games.
Oh, you're right. No, sorry, I apologise.
Yeah.
It is the Master System.
Right, yeah, again, it's a really Olympic game. It just not very good.
It's a bit boring, isn't it? You got my number 5. So.
Yeah.
Next one for me, same game as before, Olympic Summer Games. This time on the Mega Drive, the 16-bit versions. Actually, the SNES one looks okay. They look okay. I actually prefer the look of them to the horrible 32-bit versions. But God, the Mega Drive music was bad. The music on that Mega Drive, we even turned it off. I mean, that's how bad it was. We played after one event, after one Olympics, we turned it off.
Yeah.
We've never done that
Good
before
shows,
on any game. So it was lacking atmosphere. The soundtrack was bad. The events were really quick and over dead quick. There was no. It didn't make them into a spectacle. It was a poor end to the final Mega Drive Olympics game. It's sad, but it's on the list for now.
On number 3 for me, World Sports for PC Engine. It's just not special at all.
No.
Yeah, I feel a bit bad because I can't go into specific details, but if you play the game, you'd understand.
It's big. It's a long game. It's my number 2. World Sports Competition is number 2 for me. I thought it was ambitious, and I like the fact they made it into a TV show, like the news broadcast that they do every day.
Thing, yeah.
But there was a lot of events. There was a lot of repetition in the events as well. There was like so many swimming events, so many. They were just all very similar as well. The soundtrack wasn't brilliant. Playability was not great either. So yeah, for me it was too long for what it was. I wish if they put less events in, it would have done better. But it was a grind, and I didn't enjoy it.
Okay, that's something.
What's your second worst?
Olympic Summer Games SNES.
SNES?
Yeah.
Over the Mega Drive?
Yeah.
Why?
I don't know.
Probably.
It could just be down to the controls.
The Mega Drive, I think, has got a better pad for the controls, definitely. But the Mega Drive had awful music. But you could replace either of them in there. They both got their faults.
I think it's just a fine margin. If I've got to pick one of them, it's just that's where I lean towards. So no personal against it.
Nope. And my worst one so far is Track and Field 2 on the NES. Didn't enjoy it at all. It's bad enough with track and field games, the early ones, that you have to qualify past each event just to get through.
Yeah.
And that's a pain in the arse. But at least with the early track and field games, they were quite fun, so you were okay with it. That one just wasn't fun. The graphics were okay for a NES. They looked quite good. Playability was absolute shit. I don't know why they made the 2-player game only giving you 3 events like arm wrestling. Why you couldn't do a sprint in 2-player, so you had to put it on single player just to have an Olympic. The whole thing was just crap. Didn't enjoy it at all.
Yeah, and that's something we do agree on. We don't normally agree that much, but that's my worst one so far. Purely for that reason. If you're playing a 2-player game, you want to play it right, and that one was super fucking weird what they did.
Yeah.
I don't get it. It's not like you pick or all like that.
And it was overly hard. I remember it being overly hard. Like the events were really difficult to get qualifying times for as well. Like it was ridiculously difficult to play. And to be honest, I mean our bottom 5 are pretty much the same. I've put Olympic Summer Games in twice.
Yeah.
You've replaced that with track and field on the N64, but otherwise you've actually got the same 5 games.
Yeah, I mean, I feel a bit guilty putting the same game on twice. That's why I might have done track and field for N64, but only that's going to get bumped off pretty fast because it only put it down by just the control system. If I'd been playing it on another pad or something like that, it wouldn't have even been there.
That's fair. But we'll see if there are 5 worse Olympics games out there. There might be. Okay, so we're going to now move on to our top 5 so far from 5 seasons. Starting with number 5 and going to your.
Alright, I was like, what fucking mistake?
Just throwing it out there. So for me, number 5 so far is Sydney 2000 on the Dreamcast. To be fair, the PlayStation version could be there because the control pad is better for the PlayStation, but I just love the graphics. Not love, but just prefer how the Dreamcast looks.
Yeah.
Between a PlayStation and a Dreamcast, obviously the Dreamcast is going to look better.
Yeah.
And I love the Dreamcast, the way it looks anyway. With its 480p VGA setup, it just looks beautiful. It's not my favourite Olympics game, obviously. It's my 5th favourite so far, but it might not even stay there that long, to be honest. But I think it's got a really nice soundtrack to it. I like the fact that it's a full Olympics game. It's official. They've used the license well. It's a decent start. It's a decent game.
Ironically, we start off on our identical one, Sydney 2000, but I put PlayStation. Again, there's no particular reason. I'm probably just more fond of the PlayStation, but
yeah,
it's one of my first next gen consoles at times, so it's probably the only reason I've tipped towards it. It's exactly the same reason. Good game.
It is a solid game, but it's quite far behind the top 4 for me. The top 4 are much closer together, and that's very much an outlander so far. Because for me, the top 4 are all absolutely brilliant games. In fact, they might struggle to be removed from this top 4 going forward because they're that good.
I think so, because we've always said it, but early days are better ones. I don't think the top list is going to change dramatically.
No, it might not. There's not a lot of great ones coming, but for me, number 4 is Track and Field on the PlayStation, International Track and Field on the PlayStation. It's a great franchise, but for me, it peaked on this console. Its graphics are still a little ropey at the start. It's got some solid graphics. There are better ones out there than that. It didn't get its sequels better, in my opinion, but it's just such a great. It was such a great game when it came out. It just changed. It really moved the Olympics forward in a way that the Olympic Summer Games on the PlayStation just couldn't. Soundtrack was nice. Playability was bog standard button basher, which is exactly what you want from these games. Like,
That's what I want.
really solid game, good graphics. It's a really enjoyable game. The original Track and Field.
See, I went slightly different on that one. I went Track and Field 2000 for PlayStation. Yet again, they are similar sort of games, obviously, but there's a bit of difference on my list between this. So, solid game, presentation absolutely on point. It just looks. It did PlayStation justice.
I really like the look of it. I really like the atmosphere to that game.
Yeah, and atmosphere is a big thing for Olympic games. You need that atmosphere.
What dropped it down? What lost the points? The events don't help, do they? Really, you've got a couple of events there, particularly the cycling. That if you get
where we played it, yeah. So if as I say, if you got that 0, that were you out. So the way we played the game,
I think that hurts as well, because if you play it on 4-player, which you can, someone is getting a 0 in that event. You can't. One person has to get a 0.
Yeah, so that's fuck the Olympics up.
Yeah, and if whichever player gets it, you're in trouble.
At least you had a good shot. Like we was playing it with 2-player, obviously we had a chance, but we had a chance of getting a 0. But it won't. So one of your mates is getting a 0, and you might as well just wipe that Olympics out.
Yeah, it's fair unfortunate. That is what lets it down for me, and that's why it is my number 3. And because had it been not for that event, it would have been higher. Its presentation is phenomenal. It's got just one of the most perfect atmospheres to an Olympics game. The characters are big and polished at that point. They've got a nice sharpness to the music, and the kind of everything to it is just it's functional. It works. It's got that lovely change of daytime to evening as the events go on. It looks really nice, but that cycling event lets it down. I mean, I love the rowing event. I know you hate it, but I love the rowing event. But that cycling event lets it down, and it's dropped it into 3rd. And it could easily have been challenging for top spot had it not been for that.
Yeah.
If you choose not to play that event, and I think most people would choose not to play it and just leave it out, then fair enough. But the fact that it's there, it's an oversight from Konami that they put in at all. So yeah, it's number 3, but it could have been any of my top 3 could have been interchangeable with each other, to be honest.
Yeah, there's a fine line between top 3. I mean, mine is Athlete Kings for Saturn. I love that game. I didn't have too much to do with it to start off. You played in one of your games. You had for Saturn.
Yeah, you didn't play Saturn much back in the day.
I didn't. No, but when I did play this game, I think it's the quirky characters that does it for me. It's like a proper arcade sort of style game. There's enough events in it to make it enjoyable. I won't say there's loads of events or all like that, but it's just a good point for it. And it's a big upgrade from games it came before, and graphically, that were a big fucking jump.
Its high res mode looks really
nice. that were a big jump graphically for it. It's easy pick up game.
Yeah, not many events is there, so you get through it quick. That means you can.
Yeah, but I'd lose you'd lose points on some games.
Yeah.
So it's a good.
Totally. Well, Athlete Kings made my number 2. Athlete Kings is my second best game, and it pips Track and Field 2000 probably because of that. Like I said, that event on Track and Field 2000. I like Track and Field 2000 events more than Athlete Kings events. I love that rowing event. I love the graphics on 2000. Just look for me better than Athlete Kings, which came out 4 years earlier. But every event on Athlete Kings is slightly different. You've got a nice mix of different events. They all feel fair. You've got that high-res mode in graphics 480i mode, which looks really nice. The music's quite good. It's got an arcade quirkiness to it. It gets number 2 at this point purely because of that event that lets down Track and Field 2000. But Athlete Kings for me is a great event, a great game, brilliant game, really enjoyable.
I mean, I keep changing my mind between some of them, but my second one is Olympic Golf on Mega Drive. Some people might say it's short. It's not really. It's like it's one of them games. A lot of it's got to do with nostalgia because that was one of the first Olympic games it probably was first Olympic games I'd ever played. The amount of time we spent playing it, it's got good response time for buttons. Obviously, you press it's really responsive, really fluent, and it's just got a good atmosphere about it. And I like the fact that the presentation for it is you feel like you're going through that Olympics.
Yeah. Well, it's my number 1.
Yeah.
Olympic gold made number 1 for me. Again, it could easily, those top 3, I could change my mind in 10 minutes. I could change my mind tomorrow. It could keep fluctuating. If I overlook that cycling event, Track and Field 2000 is my number 1. If I don't overlook the cycling event, it bumps it to 3. And Olympic gold takes the crown. That's where it is. Athlete Kings will always just sit behind Olympic gold for me. Track and Field 2000 could be either way, but Olympic gold, for when it came out, from a pretty much unknown developer in Tiertex, and they've not made anything much better than that. In fact, most of their games, I know there's people on various YouTubers, particularly GameSack and Sega Lord X, that both slag off Tiertex design a lot because they've made a lot of bad games. But for me, that's got to be their crowning game, and I don't know where they pulled it out from. Because a lot of people would say it's very basic. It might just be us that like it, but there's a few of our friends that love it.
Yeah.
There are a few friends that we grew up with that just love it. There's just something, it's got a charm to it. And it uses the official license really well. It looks beautiful, the scoreboard looks great. It just has a feeling of a Summer Olympics that a lot of these games fail to capture. A lot of the games feel like a practice session. They feel like a small local athletics meet, not a huge Olympics. Olympic Gold manages to get that in a way that most of the other games can't. And I don't know how it does it on a Mega Drive, but there's just something special about it. And it'll take top spot for me, and it'll be tough for any game to knock that off, if I'm honest. I'm interested to see what your top one is.
I'm going to come out with this, but there's not a set reason why. It's Track and Field for PlayStation, right?
The original one.
The original one, right?
Fair enough.
I do fully admit that a lot of that is just like Olympic Gold, is pure nostalgia. I remember renting this game. I remember writing my scoring down to it. I fucking hammered that game.
Yeah.
And it's not the most intricate. It's got a good amount of events though.
Yeah. It does.
But not too many. And it's all the events I like, and it's just a button basher. There's no specific reason why it's a number one.
It is. Every event's the same, isn't it? Button bash and then an angle. Button bash, jump a hurdle.
But that's what I work with. And yet again, it makes it more enjoyable. But I've got a chance of winning this, or you know what I mean.
It definitely helps.
I can try and set some records, and I like trying to set records.
I think that was why it dropped a bit for mine, because every time we played Track and Field, I knew that I'd put up a fight, but I'd pretty much lose every event. Whereas Track and Field 2000 and Athlete Kings, there were events that I were better than you at.
Yeah.
And there were events that you would be better than me at, because they changed it up just slightly and so Athlete Kings, not every event's button bashing.
No.
Albeit the shot put is pure luck with the power bar going up and down. Most of the events, some of the events have a bit of skill, some of the events have button bashing. The
the button bashing events you would probably beat me on, the skill events I would beat you on, whereas that game is entirely button bashing of one.
And
So you're pretty much going to win every event, and that's why it can't be number one for me, because it doesn't mix it up enough. But I do remember having a lot of fun playing it. And that's why the top 4 is way ahead of Sydney 2005. Like, it's just not... That top 4 is 4 of the most iconic Olympics games, athletics games that has ever been released. And I'm not sure...
You're going to have to do something special to change that list.
yeah, I agree. But join us next time and you can see if any games do manage to knock these on the list, or any worst games manage to jump on our top 5 worst list. Who knows? But we've got another 5 seasons to discuss, so hopefully you can join us on that journey. It'll be our final ever console Olympics journey we'll be taking, so join us for part 2 of our summary, and we'll see you soon.